You felt something shift today. Not metaphorically, not as a passing thought you dismissed over your morning coffee. Something in the actual architecture of your mind moved. A door that has been sealed for months, maybe years, developed a crack. Light is coming through. Tonight at 8:10 p.m. Eastern Time, Mercury conjuncts Uranus at 1 degree Gemini. 1 degree, the first breath of an entirely new era. And if you are here right now, it is not an accident. Your nervous system already received the transmission. You are not early. You are exactly on time. Most people will spend tonight distracted, moving from one screen to the next, wondering why their thoughts feel scattered, why their brain feels like a radio receiver, picking up 17 stations simultaneously. They will not have a word for it. They will call it anxiety, call it restlessness, call it a bad day. But you know better, because you are here, and what is happening tonight is not anxiety. It is activation. Before this window closes, you will understand three things. First, what this event actually is. Not in abstract terms, but in specific, astronomically documented reality. And why its occurrence at the very first degree of Gemini makes it something that has not happened in 84 years. Second, which four signs are standing directly in the path of this lightning strike, and what it is specifically demanding from each of them. Third, the exact practice. A single ritual that takes 17 minutes, that separates the people who let this energy scatter them from the people who use it as a launch pad. Do not look away. Uranus is the planet of rupture. It does not negotiate with systems that have become obsolete. It does not send a warning letter. It arrives. Uranus entered Gemini, the sign of the mind, communication, and the exchange of information. And at that moment, a generational clock began ticking. Uranus will transit Gemini from 2025 through 2033, 8 years during which the fundamental architecture of how human beings think, speak, and transmit ideas will be torn apart and reassembled into something unrecognizable. The last time this happened, it was 1941. Radio was rewiring global communication. The first programmable computers were being built in classified rooms. What came out of that 8-year period changed every aspect of how humans relate to knowledge and to each other. Tonight, Mercury, the planet that governs every synapse, every word, every idea that moves from one human consciousness to another, is standing in exact alignment with Uranus at the very first degree of this new era. This is not a regular Mercury-Uranus conjunction. Those happen annually. This is Mercury arriving at the exact moment the revolution begins and placing a key in the ignition. What gets unlocked tonight does not go back into the dark. You have been carrying something, an idea, a knowing, a question that will not resolve itself into a clean answer, but keeps returning in the shower, in the car, in the moments between sleeping and waking. You have told yourself the timing is wrong, that you are not ready, that what you sense is probably just wishful thinking. But it is not. What you have been carrying is a transmission that arrived before the signal tower was built. The tower is now built. Tonight, the frequency finally matches the receiver. The idea that rewires everything yours specifically arrives tonight. Not for everyone, for you. Now let us go sign by sign. If you are a Gemini, this conjunction is not happening near you, it is happening inside you. At 1 degree, Gemini and Mercury and Uranus are meeting at the threshold of your own identity. Mercury is your ruling planet. It governs your thoughts, your voice, your nervous system. Uranus is now in your sign for the next 8 years. Tonight, the planet that controls your mind is standing in a doorway with the planet of revolution, and they are both looking directly at you. The idea that arrives for Gemini tonight is not a new project. It is a new self. The version of you operating on the old programming receives its final transmission tonight before the update installs. You will feel it as a thought so large and so unfamiliar that you will initially mistake it for someone else's thought. It is not. It was always yours. The universe held it in escrow until you were standing in a frequency strong enough to receive it. Tonight is that frequency. Your only job is to write down what arrives. Every fragment, Every half sentence. Do not filter, do not edit. Trust the transmission. If you are a Virgo, you are standing in a very specific kind of fire. Mercury also rules your sign, which means tonight's conjunction activates you through the same channel. It activates Gemini. But where Gemini receives this as liberating expansion, Virgo receives it as a direct challenge to its most deeply held operating principle, which is precision. You have spent years building a system of thought that is meticulous, refined, and functional. And tonight, Uranus is squaring your nature and saying, the system is not wrong, but it is incomplete. The precision you have been applying to the wrong problem, the real question, the one you have been calling a distraction, that is the one the revolution is pointing at. The discomfort you feel tonight is not the feeling of something breaking. It is the feeling of something expanding past the boundaries you set for it. The idea that arrives for you is the one your inner critic has been rejecting for months. The one that feels too big, too impractical, too much of a departure. Pay attention to exactly that idea. It is not a distraction, it is a directive. If you are a Sagittarius, tonight's conjunction arrives at your exact opposition point. 1 degree, Gemini sits directly across the axis from the heart of your sign. You do not receive this transmission quietly. You receive it as a confrontation between what you have believed and what you are now being shown. Tonight, a piece of information is arriving through a conversation, a realization, a thought that surfaces from nowhere, that does not fit inside the map of meaning you have spent your life building. It does not challenge one corner of the worldview, it challenges a foundational assumption. The temptation will be to argue with it, to find the flaw in the new information rather than the flaw in the old belief. Do not do that, not tonight. You simply need to allow the possibility that the horizon is wider than the frame you have been using to see it. The larger map is not a betrayal of the smaller one. It is the completion of a journey your mind began years ago and has been afraid to finish. If you are a Pisces, you are the dream carrier of this conjunction. Pisces does not think in language the way the other signs do. You think in symbols, in feelings, in the emotional logic of images and sensations. Tonight, the transmissions will not arrive as clear ideas. They will arrive as dreams, literal if you sleep, waking if you do not. They will arrive as the feeling that a scene from your past contains information you missed the first time. Pay attention to the residue of every conversation tonight. You will feel this activation as a physical sensation before you can name it intellectually. A loosening in the chest, a sudden lightness behind your sternum that feels like something releasing. That release is the idea leaving the body of what it used to be. Let it move. Do not force it into a logical structure tonight. For Pisces, the structure always comes after the feeling. Now, what you must not do. Do not make irreversible decisions from impulse. Do not sign anything, not a contract, not an agreement, not a lease. Mercury rules all forms of signed language, and Uranus makes the mind brilliant but not stable. Do not send the reactive message you have been drafting in your head for weeks. Write it, but do not send it until tomorrow. Do not overload your nervous system with screens, noise, or caffeine. And above all, do not dismiss the wild idea before you write it down. The most revolutionary ideas always arrive wearing the costume of absurdity. You are not built for incremental, not tonight. The practice is called the lightning rod journal. Between 8 p.m. and midnight in your time zone, find a quiet space. Sit down. Place both palms flat against a surface, a table, the floor, a notebook, wood, if possible. Wood is grounding, and you are dealing with electric energy. Close your eyes and take 5 slow, deliberate breaths from the very bottom of your lungs. On the 5th exhale, open your eyes, open to a blank page, and set a timer for 17 minutes. Write without stopping. Whatever comes. Words, fragments, questions, fears, desires. The sentence you have been afraid to finish for 3 years. One rule only. You cannot stop moving the pen. At 17 minutes, stop. Read what you wrote once without judgment. Then circle the 3 ideas that feel the most electrically charged, not the most logical, the most alive. These 3 are your transmissions. In the next 30 days, take one of those 3 and act on it. One phone call made, one conversation started, one page written. You do not need to build the entire structure tonight. You need to place one stone. 84 years ago, a previous generation sat at the opening of a Uranus in Gemini era and built in classified rooms and university basements the first machines that could carry thought beyond the limits of the human body. They only knew they had an idea they could not stop thinking about. You have that idea. Tonight, the sky is not asking you to build the machine. It is asking you to stop dismissing the idea as impossible. Tonight, at 1 degree, Gemini the universe issues the permission. You are here. You already know the answer. If this transmission found you, share it with someone who needs to hear it tonight. Subscribe because the next window is already forming, and the people who are ready will want to know when it opens. Leave a comment with the single word that arrived for you during your 17 minutes. Just place it in the record. You were calibrated for this era, for this frequency, for exactly this kind of transmission. Tonight, Mercury meets Uranus. The idea that rewires everything arrives now. Be ready to receive it.